Looking back, I've made some brilliant decisions. And by brilliant, I mean brilliantly bad. Let's talk about turning those into something useful, shall we? Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name's Brandon. I'm a pragmatic UX leader with over 20 years experience in the design trenches. And on this channel, I share solutions to everyday UX problems based on my experience, without the fluff. You know, hindsight is a funny thing. It lets you see all those brilliant decisions for what they really were. A train wreck in slow motion. But here's the deal. We can either let those wrecks pile up, or we can start mining them for some valuable insights. Let's roll up our sleeves, grab a metaphorical shovel, and see what treasures, or at least cautionary tales, are buried in that glorious mess we call our past. Let's dive in. History is here to learn from. It's not just about what happened, but why it happened. In UX, we use our own past experiences to guide our decisions, helping us avoid repeating mistakes. When you think about history, it's easy to dismiss it as old news. But in reality, everything we do in UX stems from past experiences. Every framework we follow, every decision that we make, it all comes from things we've learned before. The past teaches us what worked, what didn't, and more importantly, why things turned out the way they did. If you take nothing else away from this video, take this. History is there to help you avoid repeating the same mistakes. We're not just guessing our way through UX, we're leveraging years of insights, decisions, and even failures. I want to tell you a quick story. A few years ago, I started as the director of UX at a new company, and in my first week, I was talking to one of the product managers, and I asked her, I said, what kind of UX improvements would you like to see? How can we make your life better? She listed off a few things and said, okay, so how are you going to fix it? I didn't want to just jump in and start throwing out suggestions, so instead I asked, well, what have you already tried? Told her I didn't want to reinvent the wheel, or worse, try something that had already been tried and already failed. Instead, I wanted to look at what were the potential solutions that hadn't been tried yet. This is what I mean about learning from history. You can't just ignore what's come before and hope for the best. Understanding context is crucial in UX, and project history is a huge part of that context. It helps you understand why certain decisions were made and what challenges were already tackled, so you don't waste time repeating those efforts. One of the core principles of UX is knowing the context of what you're working on. A big part of that context is the project's history. The decisions weren't made in a vacuum. There were constraints, goals, and compromises. When you walk into a new project, don't assume that just because something is broken, it wasn't working before. Sometimes decisions were made with limited resources or conflicting priorities. Learning what's been tried already not only saves you time, but lets you focus your energy on finding better solutions instead of rehashing things that didn't work. History also gives us a map of what not to do. Every failed design, every mistake, every wrong turn, these aren't just failures. They're learning experiences that help us build better designs in the future. It's like that old saying, those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. I'll share another quick story with you. It's about the same company. So when I moved from a massive company of tens of thousands of employees to a small one of around 60 people. Someone asked me, wow, what's it like dealing with such different problems? I just smiled and said, the problems are actually the same. The only difference is how many people I need to pull together to solve them. Most challenges are universal. The difference lies in the context and scale. My experience at the larger company taught me how to deal with things at the smaller company because history likes to repeat itself. Experience is valuable, but only if you know how to adapt it. Don't fall into the trap of trying to apply the exact same process to every situation. Instead, use your experience as a flexible tool to solve new problems. When you move from project to project, it's tempting to think, I've solved this before, I'll use the exact same process again. But UX doesn't work that way. While your experience is incredibly valuable, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. What worked in one project might not work in another. That's why it's important to adapt your experience to each new context. A project's history can reveal recurring issues or patterns in user behavior that can help you fine-tune your approach. But you can't just apply your process blindly. You have to take into account the evolving needs of the users and stakeholders. Let's say you've worked on a project where user feedback drastically shifted from one iteration to the next. Maybe at first you launched it, they loved it, it was sleek, but over time their needs changed. History shows you these trends, and knowing them helps you adapt your strategies. That's why when I moved from a large company to a smaller one, I wasn't intimidated by the change in scale. The core problems really were the same, but I had to adjust how I approached them. And when I faced a new problem, Well, I just added that to my toolkit for next time. Knowing a project's history helps you make strategic UX decisions. Whether it's dealing with technical debt, maintaining consistency, or navigating stakeholder dynamics, historical context keeps you grounded in reality while you push for innovation. Project history isn't just about the design decisions, it's about the entire ecosystem surrounding the project. From technical debt to legacy systems, understanding how these elements came to be gives you an edge. You can work around them, or better yet, find ways to improve upon them without disrupting everything. History also plays a role in brand continuity. If you're working on design that has a long-standing history, maintaining visual or functional consistency is crucial. You don't want to alienate users who've grown familiar with certain elements, but at the same time you need to innovate. Understanding the project's history helps you strike the right balance between innovation and consistency. And then of course, there are the stakeholders. Knowing who has been involved in the project, who holds the influence, and what they've pushed for in the past can give you insight into how to handle their feedback or pushback. Here's an example. You might be working on a project with a decade of technical debt. It's tempting to bulldoze through, but the smarter approach is to understand why these decisions were made in the first place. Was it a quick fix? Is it a stopgap for something bigger? Knowing the context lets you make more informed decisions about what to change and what to leave alone. Alright, so today we've talked about why the history of a project is your secret weapon to making better UX decisions. The key takeaway: don't skip the history lesson. It's there to help you avoid past mistakes and guide smarter decisions. Now, here's something you can do. The next time you're tackling a design problem, ask yourself, what's been tried before? Then dig into the project's history and talk to the team about previous efforts. Trust me, you'll either avoid wasted effort or unlock fresh solutions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.